What's up, everybody? I'm Bob Walters. This is the Locked Up Sports Weekend Wrap-Up. We got a good one for you here today. The Yankees, same old story with Severino. They tried some new tricks, same old story. Mets give the Cubs a big loss, not a big win for the Mets. And Mark Mancini drops by for his regular spot here on Locked Up Sports Weekend Wrap-Up. All that plus more coming up next. What's up, everybody? Good evening. Welcome inside the Brian Gunzel Studios. I'm Bob Walters. This is the Locked Up Sports Weekend Wrap-Up. We got a big one for you. We're going to get through everything. Let's start with the Yankees. Mark Mancini's regular spot coming up in just a little bit. We're going to talk Yankees. We're going to go through all baseball, the whole league, like we usually do with Mark. The Yankees, Severino again. I told you now for 4 weeks. You keep running Severino out there, he's going to cost people their job, and you're not going to make the playoffs. And they got cute tonight. They thought, well, it'll be easy fix, right? He can't get anybody out in the first inning. Let's put somebody else out there in the first inning, a starter. And then he'll come in the second. Problem solved, right? Wrong. It's not the first inning, it's his first inning. Because they put the starter out there. He took care of business, clean first inning. Top of the second, Severino comes out to the mound. Base hit, double, 3-run homer. It's an improvement from the Orioles start. He gave up 3 runs without getting an out before he got his first out tonight. He gave up 6 runs against the Orioles before he recorded his first out last week. And it's the same story. I don't know what's wrong with him. There's something wrong with him. He went from a good major league pitcher to now he can't get anybody out. I mean, I don't know if he's tipping his pitches. They were talking about him tipping his pitches. Anyone's guess is just as good as mine. But the bottom line is he's not getting anybody out. He's given up a ton of runs. He's given up a ton of runs early, so you're out of these games before you even blink your eye. I mean, they were down 3-0, and he was in there 7-8 pitches, and it was 3-0. And that's the problem with the Yankees. There's something weird going on with this Yankee team this year. The Rizzo concussion diagnosed months later. With somehow he's got no symptoms. You don't have symptoms from a concussion months later. He woke up groggy, and they said, well, you know what, it was a concussion. I'm not saying it wasn't a concussion because it probably was. Something happened with Rizzo. You don't just drop off like he did. And something's wrong with Severino because you don't just drop off like he did either. Now, if he was tipping his pitches, I think it would probably be out. Too many people would know about it. It would leak a little bit. I don't know what it is. But he's given up a ton of runs. You can't keep running him out there. He's not getting anybody out. He's given up a ton of runs. You're out of the game before you even start. And another loss for the Yankees. And they dropped 2 out of 3 to the White Sox, who are god-awful. Now they got to go to Miami to play the Marlins, who aren't a bad team. The Marlins are fighting for their life. And I don't know why Boone and Cashman and I guess this was his last chance. I would imagine he doesn't get another start, right? I mean, you can't give him another start. This was okay, let's try this. It's been terrible first innings. Maybe it's something mental in his head with the first inning. Let's put him out there in the second. He doesn't have to face the top of the order. Well, nothing changed. Nothing. It was exactly the same. It was a carbon copy. It was actually an improvement from the Orioles game. And I don't know what it is, but it's something, and this Yankee team just has the feel of a team that's not going anywhere. For a month now, they've been teetering on the brink of out of it. And then what they do is they lose 2 out of 3, and then they'll get a good win, maybe 2 good wins, and then they fall right back into the same hole that they were in. And they don't go anywhere. They spin their wheels. They spin their wheels between 2.5 and 4.5 out of that wild card. And they just, you have the feeling like it just feels like they're not going to get there. It feels like, they're going to have, because it's going to take about an 8 or 10 game win streak at this point. That's what they're going to need. And I don't think this team's capable of an 8 or 10 game win streak at this point right now. With the offense the way it is, with the starting pitching in shambles, with Rondon hurt, with Severino doing what he does every 5 days. The bullpen's been shaky. It was shaky again tonight. The offense is non-existent. It's just not their year. It's not their year. I don't see them making the playoffs because, like I said, it's going to take an 8 or 10 game run. They're going to have to win 8 out of 10 or win 8 in a row or something like that because they got these teams to jump. They're right there. They're right there, but they can't get over the hump. And one of these times when they do backtrack, they're going to backtrack too far, and they're eventually going to run out of runway here with this season, and they're going to miss the playoffs. Now the Yankees announced earlier today. It sounds well. I'm sorry, they did not announce. It leaked out. Sources close to the Steinbrenners. It sounds like Cashman is safe, regardless of what happens. Boone, not so much. And I told you, I think if they finish with a losing record, I think Boone is gone. I thought Cashman would be gone with them. It sounds like Cashman is safe. We'll see what they do. But they're not the problem. Boone and Cashman are not the problem. The problem is you can't hit nothing. You've been running Rizzo out there. You come up with some weird concussion diagnosis months after the incident. Something happened when he had that collision, and it was probably a concussion. But why are they coming out now and saying it's a concussion? Where was this diagnosis 2 months ago, and why was he playing? The whole thing is just it's all over the place. The Yankees are all over the place. They are consistently inconsistent, and that's the way they've been. And it's what the Mets were doing earlier in the year. They'd win it, they'd have a decent win, and they'd lose 2, and you spin your wheels for a while, and then eventually just the bottom's going to fall out. Now I don't think the bottom's going to fall out this Yankee team like it did the Mets, but I think they're just going to run out of time. Eventually one of these days they're going to fall 5 back. They're going to get swept somewhere, and then it's just going to be over. You're going to be playing out the string in September. It's bound to happen. It's been teetering on that for now a while, and it kind of looks like it's starting to tip the other way. You got Rondon, who did not very good when he did pitch. He came back, he pitched a little bit, and then he went back on the IL with a hamstring. He had the issue with the fans also. It just doesn't seem like it's going to happen for the Yankees. The rest of baseball, there was no hitter tonight as well. The Phillies threw a no hitter tonight. There was, there are teams that are playing well, and we're going to go through all of it. There's a lot of interesting stories in baseball this year. The Angels, another team the Angels, the bottom just dropped out. They decided to go for it. They didn't trade Ohtani. They brought in a bunch of pieces, and then they just went on this massive losing streak. It's really a fascinating season. Like I said, the Phillies throw a no-hitter today. That was a big win for them. They're right there. The Yankees are what are the Yankees? The Yankees are 4.5 back of the wild card. The Angels now are 7 back of the wild card. They're finished. The Angels are finished, and it's amazing. And it's amazing that this team can't make the playoffs. If you feel bad about your team, just look at the Angels, and it'll make you feel a little bit better. So Michael Lorenzen, in his second start to the Phillies after being traded to them, throws a no-hitter, 120 pitches. It's the most pitches thrown by any pitcher this year, which is amazing. 120. It's a lot, but it's not a ridiculous amount. It's not a ridiculous amount. The Mets got a win tonight. It's really irrelevant for the Mets. Like I said, they're dead and buried a long time ago, but it was a big loss for the Cubs. The Cubs coming in here, they got the Mets. This is supposed to be easy wins. A team that's basically, they threw up the white flag. They're playing kids. They're playing out the string. And the Cubs to come in, have the lead, have a 2-0 lead. The Mets score 4 unanswered. Cubs battle back, tie it, and then McNeil with an 8th inning go-ahead home run wins it for the Mets. And like I said, not a good loss for the Cubs. And the Cubs, another team that they decided to go for it and buy. And it's fascinating to see these teams that they decided to go for it, and the ones that it's really working out for them, and the other ones where it's not working out. And that could be a killer for GMs. If you go in and you spend a bunch of minor league capital for your organization, and it just doesn't work out. That's a death knell for some general managers, and the owners decide that. Now the Yankees decided to do nothing. Now some people say it was a money thing. I don't know what it was, but they did nothing. They didn't buy. They didn't sell at the deadline. They tried to sell their fans that getting Judge back, getting Rondon back is kind of like a trade. It's the thing what the Mets would do with DeGrom when he was hurt. Oh, we're getting DeGrom back. That's like a trade, then we're getting one of the best pitchers in the game. It didn't work. It didn't work for the Mets. It didn't work for the Yankees this year, and it's starting to look like we're going to have no October baseball here in New York. As far as the rest of the league goes, we're going to go over all of that with Mark Mancini in his weekly spot coming up in just a couple minutes. I also want to tell you guys tomorrow I'm interviewing the green sheet handicapper from Saratoga. Now, we all saw, Sam Hollingsworth is his name. We all saw what happened to Maple Leaf Mel last weekend. It was devastating. If you haven't seen the video, it's a devastating video to watch. It's really hard to watch. She was a Philly. She was 5-0. She was feet from the wire, about to go 6 for 6, and she broke down. And it was in the biggest race of her life. It was in the Test, which is a Philly race in the Whitney Day in Saratoga. I was there last year. It's huge crowds. It's huge on TV. She was about 30 feet from being a star, and she broke down. She broke her right leg, and they euthanized her right there. There's a whole bunch of backstories with this horse and everything. Bill Parcells owns the horse. The trainer is like a cancer recovering, a cancer survivor who has a special bond with the horse, and the horse was a big star. It almost mirrors the Ruffian story. You know, was she as good as Ruffian was? Ruffian, of course, if you don't know, was the horse that in the match race that she was the filly. She raced the mare, and she got hurt. They gave her surgery. It was unsuccessful. They had to euthanize her. So we're gonna go through everything with that with a man that was there at the track when it happened, Sam Hollins. We'll throw in some picks for you for Saratoga this weekend coming up from him. But listen, it's going to be a must listen, a must watch, and it's a sad story. And if you saw the video, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't see the video, I would say go watch it, but it's tough to watch. It's tough to watch. It really is. And it's a terrible story, and I don't want to go too deep into it because we're going to get into it in the Locked Up Sports episode this week. I'm still not sure if Brett is going to be joining us or not. We're still mending Mike back to good health, so that's what's most important. But I want to say I'm excited to talk to Sam, which I am because of course he's a great guest, but under the conditions that he's coming on, I mean it's an awful situation. The Maple Leaf Mel story and everything around it. It's something that happens. We'll get a lot of people want to the horse racing is barbaric, and I don't think it is. It's part of the sport. It's a risk that they take. They're very heavy animals on very thin legs, carrying a lot of weight. It happens. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens. And it's terrible when it does. And this one was kind of with all the stories behind it and everything. It kind of was a perfect storm, and it's a terrible situation. But so the Yankees lose tonight, another loss, another blow to their playoff hopes. And there's still time. You still got 50 games left. I just don't see it happening for the Yankees. I really don't. I don't know what they could do. They could have went and got a bat at the trade deadline. That's what they could have done. Because they desperately need a bat. They have no offense. This team can't put anything together as far as a big inning or a big night. If Judge doesn't hit 2 home runs, they're not putting together a bunch of runs on the board. And it's not going to happen. You can't have one man carry a baseball team. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to have one starting pitcher and one big hitter carry the whole team. And he's not going to be, and he can't do it. It's not Judge's fault. It's not Cole's fault. It just is what it is this year. They didn't put together a real good team. They were a flawed team from the beginning, and I don't see it happening. Are they out of it? No, they're not. And with my track record, they'll probably go on to 12, win 12 out of 15 and make the playoffs. But as of right now, I don't see it happening. There was something I did want to touch on before we get to Mark in his weekly spot. We go over all the baseball and the teams that are doing well after the trade deadline and the teams that are doing poorly and the ones that have a lot of pressure this year to make the playoffs. So we'll go through all that in just a minute. Last week, I told you I thought the U.S. women would lose to Sweden in the round of 16 at the World Cup. They had a close call in the third group stage game, which they needed a result. They got the draw, saved by the post with in the waning minutes of regulation, and then they went into Sweden and they were ripe to be picked off is what they were, and they played a good game. The U.S. was the better team for 90 plus minutes. They went to penalties and they lost in penalties. It happens. The U.S. missed the net a couple times in the penalties. Megan Rapinoe, she missed the net on her kick. It happens. Okay, penalties is it a good way to end the game? It's not. But you can't really play. What are you gonna do? You can't play sudden death. You can't play forever. They've been running around for 120 minutes as is. So they lost. Okay, it is what it is. It happens. They have been the most dominant team in the sport since its inception. They win almost every tournament that they enter. They dominated the World Cup for years. They dominate every big tournament around the world. They are the best players in the world. That happens. They lose to Sweden. Good for Sweden. It was a good game. I picked Sweden. I was not very surprised that it happened. The response here back in the States is shameful. It's shameful. I've seen more people that are happy that they lost, that are ragging on them about they're not standing for the national anthem, or maybe if they didn't complain about America and the country they live in, maybe they would have hit their shots if they weren't so worried about kneeling for the national anthem and practiced penalty kicks more. Maybe they'd still be in it. Shame on everybody who said that. This is the best soccer team that this country has ever had. The United States women go into the World Cup. The only reason these other countries are even competitive with the U.S. now is because of the U.S. The U.S. does not... The reason we were winning is because we have freedom for women. These other countries don't. So they don't have a big pool of women to choose from like the U.S. does. And shame on everybody. And it's mostly people on the right. It is. I'm not going to lie. It's people on the right who are ecstatic that they lost. They didn't give a damn about the Women's World Cup. They didn't give a damn about the Men's World Cup until they lost. And now they hate the fact that they were kneeling for the national anthem. They're making fun of the fact that they fought for equal pay. And it's a travesty. And shame on anybody who, if you're listening to this and you're one of those people, listen, you could be on the right, you could be a Republican. There's nothing wrong with that. It is what it is. You could want to be a Republican, that's fine. There are sane Republicans out there. You're going to sit there and tell me how much you love this country and you're going to bash this team because they lost one game in one tournament after dominating the sport globally for upwards of 20 years. You know who's shameful? You're shameful then if you're doing that. They didn't stand for the national anthem. You know what? You don't have to stand for the national anthem. Doesn't mean you hate the country. You could say things about the country that you don't like. Doesn't mean you hate the country. Doesn't mean you don't love America. And these people with their twisted ideologies about standing for the national anthem, They don't give a damn about the national anthem. Half of them probably can't even recite the words. And it's all over Twitter, and it's disgusting. And it pissed me off this week. So I wanted to say that because, you know what? We should be proud of these women. They've dominated that sport for God knows how many years, since it's become a sport pretty much. The U.S. has dominated it. And these other countries are good now, and they've caught up to U.S. because of the freedoms in the U.S. and because the women were entitled to play here. It forced other countries to get the players and let them play. And the sport has grown exponentially, and they do deserve even pay. Because you know what? They're just as popular, if not more popular, than the men's team. I bet if you went around, asked 1,000 random people, more of them would know more women players over the course of the 25 years. Mia Hamm was a big star. A big star. Brandi Chastain was a big star, and this is 20 years ago. So shame on you. You are the problem if you have a problem with the U.S. women's soccer team. You get bitching and moaning that they're complaining about America, and then you're complaining about the American soccer team at the World Cup? Give me a break. You should be embarrassed of yourselves. So that's that. Wanted to say that. I wanted to get that off my chest. Let's now get to Mark Mancini. I just spoke to him a couple minutes ago. Good friend of the show. Good friend of mine. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And here's our spot with him. Here's Mark Mancini. Let's talk some baseball with Mark. All right, now we'd like to welcome in for his regular weekly spot, Mark Mancini from XM Radio. Mark, welcome to the show.
You know, you always make the time for a great show that keeps sweeping the country each and every week, brother. I'm always there for you, man. Thanks for the olive branch. Let's keep this thing going, and let's cheer it up from one coast to the other.
Absolutely. A lot going on. Like I was just telling Mark before, I don't even know how I'm still awake after working like 4 straight 20-hour shifts, but I'm here. I'm ready to go.
Toothpicks holding the eyes up.
Yeah. Pretty much. That's pretty much it. Now, tonight, just finished up a little bit ago. A couple of things going on. We got the Phillies. Michael Lorenzen pitched a no-hitter for the Phillies. I'm not even sure if you ever heard that yet. The Phillies won 7-0. No-hitter for Lorenzen, 120 pitches. It's the 322nd no-hitter in MLB history. I haven't even seen any highlights yet. I just figured I'd mention it. You got anything on that?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I've been blessed in baseball to see a lot of things, including a no-hitter, including a perfect game.
The in person? You've seen a perfect game in person?
I saw the perfect game in person. It was Dennis Martinez of the Expos threw it against the Dodgers in '93.
Wow.
I saw the no-hitter with Kevin Gross, no-hit in the Giants.
Okay.
I almost saw another no-hitter, but Mark Teixeira of the Braves broke it up against the Dodgers. I believe it was Kuroda.
Wow. Yeah. Mark Teixeira of the Braves. How about that?
Broke it up in the 8th inning. But I have seen and more or less the hardest things in baseball, and there's only 2 things. A World Series in person, and I thought I was going to see that in '96 covering the Dodgers and Padres. One gets knocked out by the Braves, the other one gets knocked out by the Cardinals, and catch a foul ball. And I might have to go to Oakland to catch that.
So let me tell you real quickly. I've caught a couple foul balls.
Wow.
And I have seen the World Series won in person. Unfortunately, it was the Royals over the Mets, but I was there. I saw the Royals win the World Series. So, but I've never seen a perfect game. A perfect game. I mean, listen, perfect game is that does not happen. What was it? 20? There's only like 24 of them. You know?
Yeah. And the funny thing about that is, nobody wanted to go to the game. I got a few tickets. I was going out with my wife at the time. We went to the game, and it was just amazing. 2-0 on a late July afternoon. I believe it was a Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. And I caught a home run ball. I've seen a guy put one completely out of the stadium. But the damn foul ball, and I'm now driven by the foul ball now. It's almost, if I'm covering a game, I want to be in the stands, man, to get the damn foul ball.
Let me tell you, it's first of all, it's not as thrilling as you think it is, because you know what? The ball usually is coming flying back, right? I don't even stick my hand up. First of all, you stick your hand up. That's a hard ball that's fouled back. The first person that touches it never gets the ball. No, almost very, very rarely, right? He ends up with a swollen hand the next day. Then there's a melee for it. Now, we're both too old now where if you get it, you better give it to a kid. Otherwise, you're the piranha in the stands. And then, and to be honest with you, for all that trouble, you're either going to get a broken hand or you're going to be the jerk who didn't give it to the kid. You might as well just go take yourself to Dick's Sporting Goods store and buy yourself the ball. It's the same ball, Mark. It's the same ball.
You know, my buddy went to a game in Baltimore, and I haven't been there. And he said, Mark, here's a foul ball. Now you can add it to the collection. But, you know, some of us are so driven. I think you got to get into this, you know, and I've come pretty damn close over the years covering some games and just coming down later on in the stands. Jody Mercer hit one in a row in front of me. I was at the game. Another milestone, J.D. Martinez, Arizona Diamondbacks, 4 home runs against the Dodgers, and nobody was, you know, there. It was starting to be a blowout, and if the foul ball was, if I was at the end seat, I probably would have had a chance. I've come pretty damn close now to try to get that off the bucket list. The All-Star game was another one till my good friend that played for the Oakland A's, Billy North, got me one last year at the Dodger game.
Okay.
So, yeah, I've got the All-Star game out. But the two things, the World Series and the foul ball.
Yeah, well, there you go. I checked them both off the list. Now, the other thing, because the Phillies are playing well, the Yankees now, on the other hand, they've kind of been sliding. They're inconsistent. They're the same story. They're the same story they've been all year. Now, Severino is fascinating. It's a fascinating story to me because he's basically gone from one of the top-level pitchers in baseball to he's basically not even a major leaguer now. So what he can't do lately in the last couple months is he can't pitch in the first inning. The first inning, he gets blown away. So tonight, he was scheduled to start. The Yankees started a starter, rather, out of the bullpen. They said, you're not going to take a seat in the first inning. We'll play you in the second. And the starter got through the first inning unscathed. Severino comes in, second inning. Figure we got it. We got past his trouble point here. Base hit, 3-run home run. He gives up 4 runs in like 4 innings. The Yankees are down 4-0 before you blink an eye. And now they're down 5-2 to the White Sox. I don't think the Yankees are making the playoffs.
Well, I think the Yankees, if you want to size them up, I think they're a glass full of emotions when you look at them guys. I mean, it starts with Aaron Boone.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been kicked out of more games. He's comical, but he kind of reminds me, he's almost like the Billy Martin of baseball today.
Yeah, but he because he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't even manage. He basically is just there as a figurehead. At this point, he's got Cashman and his number guys sending down the lineups with him. I think Boone is just a figurehead. He might lose his job too.
Well, the problem there is, the division's so damn tough. If you put the Yankees or Red Sox in the American League Central, we wouldn't have this conversation. They'd be blowing it out. But since they're in the American League East, and this is like the SEC, more so than any other division. If it's not, Toronto playing good baseball, you got Baltimore, you got Tampa, you got Boston. So everybody's going through peaks and valleys in that division. But even if you're 15 games over 500,
you're trying to place.
You're trying to petition to get in it. This division reminds me in football of the AFC. There's going to be some teams in the AFC that are going to petition to get into the NFC because 9 wins will get you to the Super Bowl. Yeah.
It does. It happens sometimes in football like that. Every once in a while, you get a 7-9 team that sneaks in. But the problem with the Yankees is they don't score any runs. The Yankees, they don't hit. They don't score runs. Even with Judge back, he's been inconsistent. Stanton is all over the place. He just hit a home run tonight. But I mean, he'll go from being the worst guy in baseball at the plate to being looking like Babe Ruth.
Well, not only that, 24 left on base without driving it run. That's ridiculous.
Let's start with the Orioles because the Orioles They screwed up bad this week. Okay, they have Kevin Brown, their young announcer. I don't know much about him. He is apparently a good announcer. Now I know Mark might have something else to say about that, but he is apparently a good announcer. He's up and coming. And what happened was he just basically read off a stat that the Orioles played, that they haven't been winning in the last couple of years in Tampa, and he got fired by John Angelos. And John Angelos is not his family does this. He one-upped his father. His father in 1996 fired the great John Miller. Now, if you know John, everyone knows John Miller from ESPN Sunday Night Baseball.
Giants,
now he's the Giants announcer. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's asinine. You know, I do a Pittsburgh Pirate podcast, 3 years running with their coach and first base coach, Derek Brock, and I do one with the San Francisco Giants now, first year. And there's things you can bring up, and there's things, you know, the thing with this thing is when you lay the stats down like that, I don't see why you're firing a guy like that. All he did was basically say the Orioles have had a tough time in Tampa. It's been like a house of horrors. What is wrong with that? You're not being negative. You're bringing up a stat that reflects on how far the Orioles have come as a team. You know, the first thing that I'm thinking is, what the hell are we going to do? We're going to burn all media guys from past losing seasons?
They're running state-run TV down there in Baltimore. But how tone-deaf could you be? Did they think nobody was going to notice that their announcers stopped showing up to the games?
Well, not only that, you know, and I've never been that type of guy. I've always gone into locker rooms. I'm not necessarily throwing the softball questions, but I'm asking questions. You get to know the guys. You build that rapport, and they'll open up. I do a show with Kip Gross, and we talk about the worst umpires, bad umpires, stuff like this. So we break it down. We don't hold back. But at the same time, you know, you got to trust your ability. Is he going to fire every TV guy that writes something bad about the Baltimore Orioles?
Well, I mean, that's what I don't understand. Like, what do you? He didn't even say anything bad about them. He just said, "Oh, they haven't won a series there in like a couple of years." It was just straight facts. He didn't give no opinion. And now you had said something interesting to me. You had mentioned to me in a text earlier today that you weren't crazy about it. I don't know the announcer. I've never really heard him. I've heard from people in the business that he's up and coming and he's good. You have now. It's a personal preference with announcers. Now you happen to not. You don't care for him.
Well, I you know, as far as who?
As far as Kevin Brown. Or did I misread that?
No, I like him. I do. I like him. I think he's up and coming. I like those up and coming. There's a lot of guys that are up and coming in the business. I mean, we grew up with, you know, some of the landmark, Ernie Harwell. You know, when you think of Vin Scully, we grew up with that. I like his things, but I just don't understand. Hey, I listen to broadcasts where some people are so biased they can't even get past the 5-mile radius. You ever hear some announcers?
Yeah, they are. But you know what it is and now listen, everybody's on the network, on your local network. It's going to be a little homer of announcers. It just is what it is. Okay, there is going to be a little homer.
But at the same time, us as sports talk hosts, we, you know, and I'll get ripped. They'll say I'm a bitter LA guy. I hate the Dodgers and all this. But I bring facts behind that. You know, you haven't won a World Series playing 4 decades. Well, we won in 2020. That doesn't count. You know it doesn't count because the minute you win a World Series playing 162 games, you're going to be the first one with the bullhorn on the hill there yelling, "We've done it! We've done it! 162 games." You know nobody counts the 60-game season. But you're taking it right now because it's the World Series.
Yeah,
and the facts are, if you bring facts to the table, people don't like to hear the truth. They want you to sugarcoat it, and that's the problem. And you know what? I live in a city where I'm going to lay it out, and if they don't like it, go listen to somebody else.
Oh yeah,
but it's a pure fact.
Yeah, I don't like the Yankees. I root against the Yankees. Everybody knows that I root against the Yankees. I don't like the Yankees. And it's different as a talk show host than it is as a doing a play-by-play. But he wasn't doing anything as a homer. Right. He was just reading the stats.
Exactly. I think what you have here is you have bandwagon fans or bandwagon broadcasters to the point where they can't break it down. You know, the Padres, I've heard their telecast, they're critical at times on stuff. People will respect you because
if you're always bringing good things, then they're going to wonder what's going on here.
It's not always rosy. And what sucks, and then Baltimore, and for him to think nobody was, they're the best story in baseball. They got the best record in the American League. They've come out of nowhere. It's been forever since they've won. And people want a little bit of a homer because you could tell, like, let's say, Joe Buck is one of the great announcers, play-by-play announcers. Nobody likes him. You know why nobody likes him? They think he hates their team.
Well,
he doesn't hate any team.
Not only that, look at the fight they had Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
Chip Anderson has been a problem. He had a problem with Josh Donaldson. We saw that, and then everybody was taking his side of the coin. He gets on the USA team for the World Baseball Classic. I thought the guy turned around okay. Then he stands here and starts something with Ramirez of the Cleveland Guardians. I mean, and then when you want to hear the whole thing, the manager's saying one thing and the GM is saying, well, that's not how it goes. There's a culture problem in Chicago with the White Sox.
Yeah, but with the Orioles, I mean, how tone deaf could you be to fire him for and for what? Like, how did that meeting go? What did he do? Call him in and play that little snippet that he said? I said, what are you doing reading those stats? I told you not to read those stats. I mean, come on.
And you know what? If I'm him, you can forgive, but you won't forget that. And it's like, wait a minute.
He's going to have to apologize. The fans were chanting yesterday, "Get free Kevin Brown" at the Baltimore game.
Yeah.
So he stepped in it, and now he got himself in this, and now he's got to dig his way out, and it's going to take an apology. And he's one of those guys, those rich guys, because his father was the same way, who thinks he's never wrong. Nobody say anything bad about my company. It's going to kill him to have to issue that apology.
I have a friend that works at the Orioles. I haven't talked to her about it yet, but it's really interesting how far it would come just to lay a stat. It wasn't a derogatory negative remark referring to what's going on.
It's no secret that the Orioles have stunk for the last 5 years.
Right. And they've turned it around. And when you're discussing these things, even with the Pirates or something, it's like, hey, you know what? We struggled against this team. It's nice to flip the script on them. That's all. You're not standing here badgering guys left and right, and that's the thing. And that was the thing when I started doing these things with them in the beginning, because I figured if I brought a lot of guys into this thing would be turning into a bash session. So I figured if I could handle it in 3 years running with it, Bob, you got to be doing something right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they said, hey, listen. But, they know I love my Bucks. They know, it's frustrating at times and disappointing. But the long haul of it is, let's face it, the fans today are fickle. If the Pirates were playing 800 baseball now, everybody in this country would be wearing a pirate hat.
Oh, yeah, of course. And listen, and I mean, if I was Kevin Brown, if I was him, because he sounds like he's up and coming, sounds like he's good, he's going to be doing this job, doing work, get work. If I was him, after the apology was issued, I'd tell him to go to hell. I don't want your job. That's what I tell him. Go to hell. I'll go get a job somewhere else. I'm good enough to go get a job somewhere else. And that's what I would do, because you know what? I don't want to work for you. I can't even come on the air and say anything negative, even a fact, numbers.
Well, now you're going to always look over your shoulder waiting for that other shoe to drop. And sometimes in life, Bob, the best thing to do is in order to move up, you got to move on.
Yeah, and this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to him. And now I never knew who Kevin Brown was. Everybody knows who he is now. Everybody's on his side.
Everybody thought he was the $100 million pitcher that the Padres signed.
That's what I thought, too. I was like, I didn't know. So okay. I mean, listen. There's only one opinion you can have on that, and you got to be for this guy and against what happened. But as far as the other teams that I think are interesting, real quick, let's run through this. The Angels. We talked about them going for it, keeping Ohtani. They made trades. Well, they got that. They got it all done, and they lost. They had a week's worth of losses right out of the gate after the trade deadline. They're now 7 games back in the wild card. They got 3 or 4 teams in front of them. They destroyed. They did it again.
Well, it started. They were rolling. They went through Detroit. They kind of hit a little roadblock in Toronto. Went to Atlanta and they hit it, and then they came home and Seattle just swept them. And in the beginning of the year, and I will stand by my comments. I had the Padres and the Mariners for the World Series. And this is the Mariner team that I thought would be taking apart the American League.
starting to believe in themselves. They beat the Padres yesterday. The Padres, this is an MO for them. They basically conceded the division. They're playing for the wild card.
They're losing games, though. They're still just losing, and they're losing heartbreakers too. They're losing rough games to lose.
If you're a Dodger fan, I've seen this MO for a lot of years. Yeah, you're going to get another division, but here comes October, and then somebody takes you out again. And let me tell you, if the Dodgers go out quickly like they did last year, you gotta really start moving some people there in L.A.
Oh, they can move whoever they want. They got the best farm system going.
But Bob, when you look at this team, you cannot face the music again if you get knocked out after winning 10 of 11 division titles. How do you pick up the pieces again?
Doesn't that buy you a little capital? No. The fact that you won 10 of 11 division titles. Oh, you say, but you said last week. You're right. You know what? You're right, because you said last week, don't hang banners about.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing on that situation. It becomes a psychological thing. This is the Buffalo Bills getting to the Super Bowl and not winning it 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
It starts to play mind games with you. And not only that, you keep getting knocked out in October. You're kind of saying, okay, we could buy this, we could buy that. But then people are going to start saying, well, there's a consistent pattern here. Do I want to sign up with it? And one of the guys that basically said, I don't want to sign up with it, was Eduardo Rodriguez of the Tigers.
Yeah. But, I mean, October's a crapshoot now. It's a crapshoot with all the teams in it and the 2 out of 3 and the buys. It's now just a crapshoot. So you can't really play for October.
If you're a big market team, and I'll use the Steelers as an example, they haven't had a losing season under Tomlin since he's been there. And in Pittsburgh, the bar is, if we don't win a Super Bowl, this season is a flop. That might not be the bar with the Dodgers. They might be content with hanging division flags like the Clippers do. But some teams, if they don't win a World Series, I'm sure that thing is in Houston, if they don't win a World Series, it's a joke. And the Astros don't have the marquee that the Dodgers have.
The Astros are playing well now. They're one of the teams playing well after making the deal. Verlander has pitched well, coming out in his first couple starts. He pitched well against the Yankees. He lost the game in his first start, but he lost a tough luck loss of pitcher's duel. A couple of the teams. I mean, you got the Brewers, who now it's gonna be like the last gasp for that core. You got Craig Counsell, the manager, who's gonna be on his last year contract. You got a couple of the key guys in the core who are going to be going into free agency. If they don't do it this year, they'll probably trade. And then you got the Twins. The Twins have not won a playoff game since 2004. They have been in the playoffs almost a lot of times, probably 5 or 6 times. They usually run into the Yankees.
Yeah,
this year the Yankees won't be in it. Maybe they get lucky. Maybe they win a couple games.
They had the Astros down that one year. The Astros came back, took care of them. Then the Twins are a mirror image of the Dodgers. They just get into the playoffs and they can't seem to do damage. And, they go out with a whimper. And, if I'm the Padres, if I'm the Giants, if I'm some of these other teams, I'm basically saying, okay, I see Atlanta. I'm not worried about the Dodgers because their track record is, we can get hot and take them out. Let's face it, they're doing it with smoke and mirrors. They have no closer in that pen. It's all rookies. They got 2 starters, and you can hit those starters too, in Urias and Kershaw. And you got 3 guys at the top of the lineup. If you can waver through that, bust those guys in, Max Muncy with a 197 batting average and 29 home runs, that's a Dave Kingman in my book. Either he's striking out or he's hitting a home run.
Yeah, I'm Dave Kingman. That's funny you say that. But and then just to go back real quick to the NFC, the NL Central, you got with the Brewers. I'm rooting for them, and the Reds seem to be fading a little bit. They went for it at the trade deadline. They made some deals, which is the right move. They are now 2.5 back. Do you think they salvage this? They get themselves into the playoffs? Because I'd like to see the Reds in there. It's been forever since the Reds have been in the playoffs, and they've been a good team. And this is unexpected this year. This came out of left field.
Right. Yeah, that's well, I think when you're looking at the Central, I think this division in the next 5 years will be dominated by the Reds, young, and the Pirates, young. They all came up through the minors together. It kind of reminds me of the Astros when they all came up after all those losing seasons. I think the Reds and Pirates will be the two teams that dominate it. The Cubs are kind of in the mix. The Brewers and Cardinals are going to have to kind of retool there, I would think.
Yeah, the Brewers, like I said, that's why I said it's like the last chance, like the last gasp for the Brewers. They're gonna Counsell might be gone with free agent as the manager. So he's on the last year contract. They got their shortstop and a couple of pitchers, Corbin Burns, and a couple of them are going to be free agents. And they're going to trade them because they're not a big market. So if they get to next year, they're not going to hold them to the trade deadline. They'll probably trade them in the offseason. So this is the last gasp for the Brewers, but I would like to see the Cincinnati overtake them and win that division.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. You know, the Reds, well, they've had a tough stretch of it late.
They're fading. They're fading a bit.
Yeah, and that's it. You know, you peaks and valleys, and the one thing in baseball, what I've always said is, you got to build yourself, you know, at least 15 games over 500. So when you have these kind of skids, you can weather it. If you're going the other way, it's kind of hard to catch up.
Yeah, and I don't know what the Angels do. I mean, I feel like America is getting robbed of Trout and Ohtani. Just every year we don't get to see them. I mean, you're out there on the West Coast, you see them. Okay, we get these games at 10:30 at night, but people aren't watching them. Kids aren't watching them. Kids should be watching Trout and should be watching Ohtani. These are generational players. And now, again, they went for it, and what happened? They fell flat on their face, and in the 2 weeks after the All-Star break, they lost 7 in a row. They're now 7 games back. They're not going to recover from that. They're not making the playoffs again this year. And they're going to lose Ohtani, too.
Well, the problem is you know, and I like Perry Manassi. I've interviewed him, great guy. The problem is one thing is, if the hitting's there, the pitching ain't there. If the pitching's there, the hitting ain't there. They got a stacked lineup. I mean, they got to do something with Rendon there. I like Renfroe. I like the pickup of Moustakas and Crone. Some of these guys to complement,
Ohtani and Trout.
But Trout should have probably been moved a few years ago and got a cachet of guys.
And Ohtani's going to split. He's got to see the writing on the wall that they make me feel good as a Mets fan. I mean, it takes a lot to do that.
I don't think he's going east. I think it's going to be somewhere either San Diego, L.A., Seattle, or the Angels.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's where it is. And let me tell you something. I know the Mets are just, they blew up the bridge and everything.
Yeah, they blew it up. They paid $200 million.
The problem with the Padres is they've just been flat out snake bitten.
Well, because I think the Padres look at it as, okay, this is a bad year. Let's keep the team. We still think we can win with this team. It's just a bad year. Throw this year aside, and we'll go back with the same guys next year because they didn't do anything.
Here's the thing. Snell's a free agent. Hader's a free agent. You bring those guys back. You have to bring those guys back. You got Soto one more year. Machado, you got Tatis, you got Bogarts. I mean, you got Cronenworth. You picked up Choi, which is good. You've got all these guys on pitching with Rich Hill, Darvish, Musgrove. I mean, it's just, I think the big problem, and look at Sanchez, who left New York, didn't do nothing in Minnesota. He's having a banner year in San Diego. So I don't know what you need to do with the Padres if they don't do something this year. Hell, I was wearing my own San Diego Stock Exchange shirt.
That's funny. Hey, listen, I don't know what the Padres, they're a good team. They're a good team on paper. But so were the Mets, and so were a lot of teams. And on paper, it means nothing. So, Mark, next, let me ask you a question. Do you watch Hard Knocks?
Yes.
Okay, good. So next week we'll hit up Hard Knocks. I still haven't seen the episode yet. Yeah, we'll start talking about some Hard Knocks next week.
I'm telling you right now, and I said it when I said they were going to get Aaron Rodgers. And I got a good friend that's a big season ticket holder for years with the Jets. The Jets mean business. This is the Richard Todd, Joe Namath type of time.
Yeah, but they're still the Jets. They're still the Jets.
I'm telling you, it's going to be. The Jets, the Jaguars. I will tell you when we start talking next week, keep your eyes on the Steelers. They got depth. They have depth now. They went 8-2 when T.J. Watt was out. Keep your eyes. The Steelers have loaded up. That's a team that you better adjust the mirrors for.
Well, it's coming. We are a couple weeks away, and here in New York, we're a couple games away from when the Yankees. Once the Yankees fall out of this thing, that it's going to be. all straight football right into the Jets and the Giants. His name is Mark Mancini. He joins us every week here. Mark, thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you next week. Next week, we're going to see you. I'm going to get this thing fixed out, I promise.
Yeah. I can't wait, man. The show that's sweeping the country. Keep up the good work, my brother. I love you.
All right, Mark. Good. So talk to you next week. So how about that? Mark Mancini, thank you. Thank you again for coming on. As always, I'll tell you, he's great. Texts me all week. He loves the show. He looks forward to coming on. We love having him on. It's always a heated debate with me and him. I like that we butt heads a little bit. That makes for good radio. So again, that's going to do it for us here tonight. Yankees lose more for. I mean, it's enough with Severino. It's enough. I don't know if Boone has the ability to pull him out of the rotation. Cashman, you can't put him back in the rotation. They go to Miami now after losing 2 of 3 to Chicago, and they're not going to be easy games. You have Cole going on Sunday. You figure that's a win. You got to figure out a way to get one of the first two. They don't know who's pitching tomorrow night. So you got to get 2 out of 3 here just to stay afloat. And I don't even think that's going to be enough. Like I said, I think they're going to have to go on a 7 or 8 or 9 game win streak at some point very soon. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves in a hole they're not going to be able to get out of. And they're very close to that reality. They're closer to that reality than they are being an actual team that will play October baseball. So we want to thank Mark Mancini again. And don't forget, this week on Locked Up Sports, Sam Hollingsworth, he is a sheet handicapper at Saratoga. We're going to talk about the Maple Leaf Mill tragedy. If you haven't seen the video, check it out, but just be warned, it's rough to watch. And with all the storylines involved in that and involved with the Philly and how great she was and how great she could have been, it's a real sad story, but it's an important story. And I think it's important to get it out there to people, so we're going to get it from the expert, Sam Hollingsworth. He was on the show last year, giving Derby picks. And I'll even have him give you some picks for this weekend if you want to lay some money on some of the horses. So that does it for us. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm Bob Walters. We'll talk to you this weekend. Again, thanks for joining in. Thanks to Mark Mancini. Talk to you this weekend, everybody. See ya.